that's what's laid out in the proposal. But that transition will then come to an end. Yeah. And at the end of that, we still have to make a decision on where we're going, backstop or no. So I'm afraid we're always and the point about it is, it's at the behest of the European Union. It's not at our behest. And I have nothing against the European Union, but they are the negotiating partner who will make an advantage out of delaying it. I give way to my friend.
I thank my right honourable friend for giving way. Just really to reiterate that point, on a plain reading of Article 3 of the protocol, it's quite clear that it is not necessarily a right for us to have that extended transition. We can only ask for it, and that is a different thing.
Yes, it's also true, but the general point is that the overall timetable is not in our control. It's in the other side's control. And as we have seen throughout this entire negotiation, the moment we gave away sequencing at the beginning, it gave an advantage to the other side. And my honourable friend, the ex-Minister of State's nodding, he remembers it. So let us, but the point I want to make today is there are basically three, if you forgive me not for the moment, a little later, there are essentially three emblematic conclusions to this. One is World Trade Organization, which we've talked about already, which I doubt will be a deliberate one, but it's a possible one. One is Norway, which a number of my colleagues on this side of the House and on the other side of the House have suggested might be the best outcome. And one is the Canada plus option. Now, there are compromises between them, there are mixtures of them, but those three essentially capture the possible outcomes. Now, let me start with the one where I pretty much disagree with everybody who's spoken so far, and this is the issue of the World Trade Organization deal, the so-called no deal, which actually, what the Chancellor called it a strict no deal, because he knows full well all the preparations have gone in government to create a basic no deal or basic outcome, a basic negotiated outcome. There is a whole stratum, the whole spectrum of possible types of no deal, some of them dealing with the issues that my honourable friend sitting in front of me raised before, aviation, data, and so on, all of which, if this deal goes down, as I think it will in a few days, if this deal goes down, there will be a scramble in London and Brussels to start putting those one-on-one unilateral negotiations together. So there's a range of those possibilities. I'll give way. Actually, if she'll forgive me, the honourable lady here first. Yeah.
I'm grateful to the right honourable gentleman for giving way. I'm slightly puzzled as to why he is so critical of the backstop arrangements, given that he himself signed off the original draft in December last year.
She clearly hasn't read my resignation letter, in which I made clear what I'd said to the Prime Minister about that backstop arrangement. Take it away.
I could just go on the point of aviation and WTO, which was also mentioned by the member for Mid-Worcester in a previous intervention. It is the case that actually the EU itself is looking for a deal on aviation, as we would be. So actually there is no difference. The EU still doesn't have a deal on aviation.
Yes, and hardly surprising, since we have the biggest aviation hub in Europe and one of the biggest in the world in this country. But I've never, yes, all right, I'll give way once. One more.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you for giving way. Just on the backstop, as the honourable gentleman is referring to it, it was said earlier on that all the regions in the United Kingdom would be supportive of this. The MPs, the Unionist MPs, the DUP MPs in this House are not supporting the withdrawal agreement. And does he recognise, as I suspect that he does, that Unionist opinion feel alienated by the proposals that are put forward, which will weaken our position within the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, because the EU will have a final say on what happens in relation to the single market and the customs union over Northern Ireland?
And indeed, to reinforce the point I made to the honourable lady earlier, I did tell the Prime Minister that last December, as everybody now knows. Now, I don't take a utopian or a dystopian view of this World Trade Organization option. There are colleagues on this side of the House who think it will actually be, in the long run, be the best because it's the freest in terms of the outcomes. And there are those who fear it as a complete disaster. And I think it's neither. It's absolutely neither. There's been enormous amounts of black propaganda about this proposal, about World Trade Organization outcome. We heard a month or two ago that the supplies of insulin would dry up. No, they won't. We talked to the pharmaceutical companies, we talked to the NHS, did their checks, they won't dry up. No drugs will dry up, full stop. We were told that planes will be grounded. The point my honourable friend just made, in January, if she'll forgive me in a moment, In January 2018, the European Commission briefing document was released showing that there will be EU-wide contingency measures ensuring no stoppage of aviation. No stoppage of aviation. And delays, well, before I get to delays at Calais, I'll give way to the Honourable Lady.
I'm very grateful. I would be very grateful if my right honourable friend for Halton, Price and Howden would look at the evidence that pharmaceutical companies have given to the Bayes Select Committee to outline the catastrophic results of a no-deal Brexit. Now, I recall my right honourable friend saying that we wouldn't be needing an implementation period because we would have had our deal by now. And I'm afraid it's not as easy and it's not as simple as he appears to wish to outline.
Well, with
right honourable members to intervene, and that is in the nature and tradition of parliamentary debate in this place. However, I hope I can be forgiven for making the point that if people intervene and don't subsequently get called to speak, they won't complain. Brackets, what are those pigs I see flying in front of my very eyes? Mr David Davis.
What a pity, Mr Speaker. I enjoy the interventions, as you well know. Let me say the Honourable Lady's misquoting me from somewhere, because it was me that actually negotiated the implementation period element of this, and for that reason, precisely because it's not without hiccups, it's not without issues. There will be practical issues in the first year of a World Trade Organisation outcome, but that does not overwhelm the big advantages, the massive advantages of having the freedom to negotiate our trade deals in the future.